Big changes are coming to this Saturday's spring game. The format's being overhauled, key players are out, and for the first time ever, alcohol will be sold in Memorial Stadium. That's all coming up right now on Locked on Clemson.
You are Locked on Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Tiger fans? Morgan here, Clemson fan, Clemson grad, host and producer of Locked on Clemson, part-time host and producer over on 105.5 and 97.5 FM, The Roar. Thank you so much for making Locked on Clemson your first listen every day. We're part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. And if you're new to the show, make sure you hit that like and subscribe and notification bell so you won't ever miss an episode. We put out new content every single weekday here on Locked on Clemson and all about your Clemson Tigers. And in between episodes, don't forget to follow me over on X at the Morgan T Show, where we can talk about all things Clemson over there as well. Maybe just a little bit of wrestling and Formula One or whatever else you want to talk about. Hey, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. That's Game Time and the Game Time app. Clemson Spring Game is going to look very different this season. And in 2025, I never thought I would say this, but it's going to be the most unusual era of Dabo Swinney and spring games as it starts a major cultural shift for not just Dabo, not just us as fans, but really for the university as a whole, because just announced today, I know it was on April 1st, so it's kind of weird that they would announce it on April 1st. Maybe why wouldn't they wait till tomorrow? But this is the first time that fans will be able to legally purchase beer or wine inside of Memorial Stadium. And it's not just a small thing. Clemson is one of just 3 Power 4 programs still holding the line, or were still holding the line against alcohol sales in athletic venues. So it'll be a big deal for Clemson. And that era is now officially over. And I know most people kind of, a lot of people would cheer it. And a lot of people kind of very skeptical. I'll go ahead and tell you, I'm on the side of I can have a good time without it. So, and I try to avoid it at all costs in most cases. So I would say, I'm not judging anybody who does, but I would say that it is a big challenge for me. I know that fans can get pretty rowdy even without that. But, fans are going to notice that there will be clearly marked kiosks for you to use. There'll be ID checks. They'll still be pretty regulated, so it won't be like a free-for-all. Very modern. It seems like a very tightly run addition to what the experience is going to be like. So, could open up, even future alcohol sponsorship revenue as well, something Clemson has, known to previously avoid. Pretty interesting to me because, as a fan, as a kid over the years, I haven't really seen much about alcohol sales in most cases. And like I said, I know that there are plenty of fans who can get pretty rowdy even without it. I would say that, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I think you have to kind of change with the times, and I'm probably, more old school than others. But April 5th, is going to be an unusual day for sure because of this. If you're 21 or older, you'll be able to purchase drinks at those kiosks. There is a limit of 2 drinks per transaction. And alcohol sales will stop after the third quarter, and they won't allow vertical IDs. They're not going to allow Tiger One cards, and softball and baseball venues will start their initial programs, later on next week, starting on Monday on the 7th. So not really, to me, I don't see it as encouraging drinking at all. I think that, it's just kind of part of society. I mean, you can get alcohol in many places, gas stations and restaurants around. So I think it's just aligning with the national trends, aligning with the game day atmosphere for fans who want that option. And honestly, I'd rather you do it legally, than not. But I'd also rather you not drink and drive. I know growing up, that was a big concern for being able to travel to and from games, going back and forth from Anderson. You wanted to have a good time, but you also didn't want to put others at risk either. And I know that this is going to, I think from a police standpoint, from a family standpoint, going to be a little bit of a change for sure. Now, obviously, you've been able to do it in the tailgate forever, so really not a change there. You're just going to be able to do it in the stadium as well. So the concern for me would be, picking up where you left off and then going back to the car and continuing the roll. So, but I guess as I'm saying it out loud, you're really kind of probably already doing that anyways. But stay safe out there, be responsible, drink responsibly, and make the right decisions for yourself and other people as well. But definitely a change in times, not only for the alcohol sales that was recently announced, but also that the spring game for Dabo Swinney has kind of changed over the years. He used to do a split where they would have this kind of fun draft and he would pick 2 assistant coaches and they would go and do a fantasy football type draft. And they're not going to do that either. So injuries have kind of hampered the roster this spring. And now Dabo Swinney says that they just don't have the numbers to do that traditional orange and white format. And I believe that I do, but I also believe that there's no going back. I don't think there would be no going back from what we said before with alcohol sales. I don't think there's going to be any going back for changing your spring game to this style as well. So what are we anticipating? It's not going to be 50-50 split squads. He said that there'll be first team offenses, second team offenses, first team defenses, second team defenses with, filled in for people who are out for injury. It's going to be a controlled scrimmage. So honestly, I like that. And I'll tell you why, because when I go to these practices, I feel like I'm seeing behind the scenes, when I go to a spring game, I don't really get that feeling. I know that they're not giving 110%. Maybe some players are, but not everybody is. And I know that it's kind of like, a little bit going through the motions. You want to see some of the young guys, but then again, they're kind of playing it safe as well. Very vanilla, if you will, very boring, but I like going to practices and kind of seeing a few periods at practice just because it's just different, and you can kind of get a little bit of an insight of how they coach and how the coaches respond to the different players and vice versa, how the players respond to the coaches. So if it were me, I'm not against doing an orange versus white, but I actually do like an idea of having a controlled scrimmage, having Dabo Swinney maybe on a microphone or something. It's not going to be televised either, but they also mentioned that you're going to expect some 7-on-7s. So see some kind of pass rush sessions, maybe some individual scrimmage play, maybe some one-on-ones. Garrett Riley mentioned that he felt like it was overall a positive and a great opportunity for some of the young guys to get some more coaching time, some more reps, and not overcomplicate the whole situation and make it more like a game, but kind of more of an extension of a public practice, if you will. And honestly, like I said, I've always had a great experience watching the practices and seeing the little bit of a glimpse that we get to see. If it is fully this way and this is the way it's going to be, then I do want to see behind the curtain. I don't want to just see very vanilla practice either. I'd like to feel like I'm there, a fly on the wall, and kind of seeing behind the scenes. And I hope that there's a lot of interaction with the fans as well throughout the game. I think that's one thing that we can improve on. I think Clemson does really good before and after the game, but I'd like to see some involvement with fans or discussions or just interaction with Dabo Swinney and maybe some of the other staff with the fan base too. So it's not going to be televised. There was a time where spring games it was all about getting televised and having the biggest spring game and having a sold out spring game and having a concert like Georgia did. But for the first time that Clemson's, in many years, that Clemson's not going to have the spring game televised, not going to be on ACC Network, not going to be on ACC Extra, ESPN Plus. There'll be an in-house production, like a 1-hour special for Clemson Plus if you're an IPTAY donor. So you might want to think about getting involved in that if you want to see that 1-hour special. And he was upfront with it. Dabo was upfront with his decision, saying that it wasn't about hiding from other teams or from scouts or whatever, but it was just a simple, less drama, no commercial breaks. and just having a better in-person experience, which I think overall will help for sure in the long run. I think there's a lot to watch for sure. I think the new format's going to help and make it more engaging overall. So I'm actually looking forward to it. I haven't checked out the weather yet, but it's typically, if it's anything like it's always been, it's been very, very hot. All right. Coming up next, we're going to talk about some big questions that are going into Clemson's spring game for 2025, and maybe they'll be answered or not, but we'll talk about it. Ever check your bank account out and wonder, where did all my money go between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment? It's easy to lose track, and that's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch Money, I just realized how much I was spending on food delivery, food takeout, whatever it was. Food was just way too much. And I was going grocery shopping too. So now I budget smarter and I save more. And my wife and I work together to make it even better experience. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LockedOnCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LockedOnCollege for half off your first year. Imagine watching your favorite team live, feeling the energy of the crowd, and witnessing unforgettable moments. There's nothing like experiencing a big game in person. Getting tickets shouldn't be stressful. That's where Game Time comes in, making it easier than ever to grab last-minute seats at unbeatable prices. Game Time picks are a curation, makes it easier to find better value for tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. And peace of mind with seats. With Seat View, before you buy, no surprise fees and lowest price guaranteed. You can book with total confidence. And I love super deals, the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Download the Game Time app and create an account and use code LockedOnCollege for $20 off your first purchase. That's LockedOnCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Despite the injury list that we're seeing coming into the spring, and we're probably not going to see a lot of the starters that we're going to be used to in the fall, there are several newcomers like freshman Gideon Davidson, we've talked about many times here on this podcast, and Amari Adams that we talked about recently is getting a lot of hype on the defensive side of the ball. Will Helt and Peter Woods, as I mentioned. Christopher Vizina is another one who, with Cade Klubnik having some limited practice reps, he's been on the stage to kind of show what he can do. And I know a lot of fans have been questioning, like, when is he going to show us what he can do? And he's quietly been building more and more reps. And I think the biggest thing for him, from what I've seen personally in my own eyes, is that he just needs to be able to speed up to the game and allow the game to slow down for him, I guess is the better way to put it. But, he just has to figure out how to play at the pace of college football. I don't know if I've seen that yet. I haven't seen him this year so far, so I can't say 100% for sure. But I think that's the biggest obstacle he'll have to figure out is how to step up with the timing. But, going into this spring game, obviously I want to see how Tom Allen reacts and performs with other players and, with the defense and how they underperformed last year, being in the middle of the pack of yards allowed and red zone stops and pressure rate. Those are things that, like, Clemson usually leads the way in. And they need to fix quickly because they can't be just an average team when it comes to yards allowed and red zone and being able to get to the quarterback. So Tom Allen is kind of brought in to see, I really want to see his intensity, right? I want to see his aggressiveness, see how he coaches. And that's kind of why I'm really looking forward to more of this practice style or, periods. I don't even know if they're going to do periods, but it seems like that might be implemented as well. So I'm curious to see how Tom Allen actually coaches the different position groups and how he coaches like the 7-on-7s and the different, activities that they're going to have and drills that they're going to have. To me, that's what I would rather watch. I know it might not be as exciting, I guess, to a casual fan for just a normal game. Maybe a lot of you want a normal game, but for me, I'd rather have more of that fly on the wall, looking in the inside, and it kind of feels that way. It feels like you're getting exclusive access. It feels like the fact that you show up and you're there in person, you're getting something that no other Clemson fan is going to get if they're not there, if they're not able to make it to the game. You're going to get something that the national media is not going to be able to get unless they're there as well, and that the opponents aren't going to be able to get unless they're there as well. So I like the idea of having this not televised, having it in-house, and doing a little bit different. And I do think that we need to get used to it, because I don't really think they're going to go back at all. I don't see any way that they could go back. You can't unsqueeze the toothpaste at this point. You're not going to go back to the traditional spring game anymore. And it's kind of sad, but maybe this could be better. It's going to depend on Tom Allen's success is really going to depend on how well that he can connect and resonate with the players, and his coaching style can do that, and how well the players adapt quickly to what he wants to do and be able to adjust, because I'm sure he's a little bit different, maybe a lot different than Wes Goodwin. But Clemson needs to, regardless of who the coach is, needs to generate pressure without exposing themselves to huge backside runs or huge, deep balls, on the weak side. I think that they have to be aggressive, but also play well in space. So they have to work well together, and you can't have players, which we saw last year, in my opinion, one or two players going off and doing their own thing. You can't adjust and not the entire team. You can't play your own game and the entire team doesn't know what you're doing, because then you're exposing other players. So I think Tom Allen can elevate not only the linebacker play, but the defensive end and edge positions. I think that Clemson can return to a top 15 form. And that's why I'm looking forward to the spring game, because to me, it's kind of like, I know the hype is there. I know the excitement is there, but I want to see it in person. And the spring game is kind of a proving point for me to just make sure that Tom Allen is as advertised. And I think he will be, but that's really the biggest thing for me. The second biggest thing, outside of just, everybody that's going in and replacing the guys that are, or filling in for the guys that are injured, would be the running back battle. I know we've talked about it a bunch, but with Phil Maffa gone, you're going to have a huge competition there. Jarvis Green wants some reps. David Ezeamume wants some reps. Keith Adam Jr. Jay Haynes is going to be injured, so you're not going to get him, but Gideon Davidson as well. They're going to want meaningful reps. They're going to want opportunities, and they're going to want to show who the clear alpha is. And maybe that doesn't happen in the spring game, but I kind of feel like we're going to get a little bit of a hint, right? I feel like we're going to see something. We know the talent is there. We know that there's a running back by committee kind of already set up. And I just want to see how they do it. I want to see, if Dabo does a 2-minute drill, who's the running back? I want to see if he does a short yardage situation, who's the running back? And is that kind of take note of that and see if that's something that he is going to continue throughout the season, or if it's just, smoke and mirrors spring game. Because I do feel like last season's spring game was a little bit more smoke and mirrors, and none of what we thought would happen from the spring game even translated over to the fall. So that's kind of proves the point of everyone who says the spring game is the most irrelevant game of the season. But this won't be really more of a game. This will be more of kind of individual competitions. So I'm looking forward to that. Gideon Davidson, obviously, of that pack, has the highest ceiling. And then Adam Randall, who I kind of stumped for last week, I think he's going to be your running back one. I don't know how much reps he's going to get, in the spring game, but I am looking to see just how comfortable they are. Even if they get 3 or 4 reps, I just want to see and have them prove to me that they're comfortable and that they can be a true alpha. And then I'm looking forward to like Tristan Smith as well. See how good he is on the outside. See if he's someone who deserves attention outside of, Bryant Wesco and TJ Moore. Does he deserve a little bit more looks than those guys because he's older? He's a little bit taller, and he's proven himself at a certain level. So maybe he can transition very quickly. The biggest questions, again, defense, how they're adjusting, running back identity, who's the alpha, and the receiver roles. How does the new lineup look I'm really, really interested to see and curious how it all kind of unfolds. And I think the spring game is going to be a great time to kind of see at least a little bit of a glimpse of what may be for the fall. And as you know, because I do a show, for me to over speculate literally every little thing, because that's the fun and also helps me make more episodes if I just speculate. But all right, so we're going to finish up with Dabo's discussion about the Saturday spring game and about playing other teams and some predictions that I may have for the spring game this weekend. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trade, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast and from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service. You'll always find a real person to talk to. And for trade pros looking for extra edge, their free TradeMaster program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage of this. Now it's your turn. Join the TradeMaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the bracket breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
You know, Saturday's spring game may be scaled back a little, but Dabo Swinney made a statement for the future of spring football, and I really like it, to be honest with you. He mentioned about how Deion Sanders said that they should allow joint scrimmages, and I'm telling you, Dabo is absolutely right. He agreed with Deion Sanders. He said that they do this at every level of football, from Pee Wee to NFL. They do joint practices. They do joint scrimmages. He said he's been saying it for 12 years, and he's tired of everybody resisting something like this. And now that you have more high-profile coaches coming on record and saying they would like to see it as well, then the NCAA, of all the things they can't do and of all the rules that they can't uphold, this is somehow the one rule that they can tell you can't do. You can't. Syracuse and Colorado wanted to play each other in a scrimmage and a joint practice, but the NCAA, of all the things they haven't been able to uphold, this is the one thing they're going to slam the hammer down and say, you guys can't do this. And I mean, if I was just a university, I would say, okay, we're going to do it anyways, because what does the NCAA have any kind of leverage? I mean, it seems like they always get pushed down at the end of the day. So I would just keep pushing back. College basketball does it. Baseball does it. As I mentioned, high school does it. Why not college football? I think it's just an outdated policy, and I do think it's time for a change. Can you imagine for a second, like a high profile game? Maybe you don't use South Carolina or someone like that, but maybe you lose like Clemson versus Georgia to come in and play. Maybe you get a Wisconsin and a Clemson or something. Like maybe you get a Texas Tech and a Clemson, some random team that you're probably never going to play or maybe very rarely play, and get them to come and be a part of a joint scrimmage or joint practice, and you go to them too, and maybe do a home and home or home and away or something like that. I think it would draw national attention. Now, you would have to probably televise something like that and be really, really huge. Public eyes would want to see that. But again, it goes back to, I wouldn't do a full-on game. I would definitely do more of a scrimmage, more of a controlled practice, not a ton of contact. Even if they're not playing in full pads, I'd be okay with that. I'd like to see just, a certain type of drills that they would do, and just to see kind of how it would work. Maybe it would fail, but I think a lot of fans would like to see that just to make it something different. Fans would obviously, I think, pack the stadium. I think the TV ratings would be good. And if guys like Dabo think it'd be a good idea, then who am I to say no, right? I mean, I think it would be a good idea as well. So for me, I'm all for it. I mean, you can let me know over on X at the Morgan T Show, or in the comments over on the YouTube channel. Let me know what you think. But I'm really curious because I do think this would be a great idea. I mean, you do worry about running the risk of injury, and you do worry about running the risk of like getting in fights and arguments. But I think overall, it'd probably be a really good experience for everybody involved over the long term. And I think you could make some extra revenue there, which is shocking because everybody wants that, right? I'm not shocked by the fact that they want that, but I'm shocked by the fact that they still have this resistance of doing something like this. So if you got my vote, it would be, Clemson versus some team that they don't normally play in a spring scrimmage, and maybe some 7-on-7s, maybe some drills, and get a little, kind of like a Pro Bowl type competition, see if our quarterbacks are better than their quarterbacks in kind of some drills. See if our running backs are better than their running backs. See if our offensive line is better than their offensive line. I don't know, just something fun to see, or maybe our offensive line versus their defensive line, and just kind of in a 6-on-6 or 6-on-4 or 5 situation would be kind of cool too. All right, so some big predictions. My friend over at Rubbing the Rock had some big predictions, and I loved his predictions there, John Chansey. And I think that there are a lot of good spring predictions out there right now. I'd like to see how the defensive line really works out. I'm curious to see the front 7 really as a whole. Sammy Brown, TJ Parker, Peter Woods, DeMonte Capehart, Will Helt, whoever they have as their rotation. I'm really curious to see kind of how they all work out and work together. I think it'll be really fun and exciting to see them all work together, and just kind of how Ben Boulware works in with things, and how Tom Allen works with everything. I'm curious to see. I think, that's one of the things I'm looking for. Another thing I'm looking for is Tristan Smith, kind of to see how he does. And I know that there were some players that transitioned over from offense to defense, like they mentioned Tink Kelly. I agree with that. I'd like to see how he does, a hometown guy, see if he can get some more reps on the defensive side of the ball. Ronan Hannafin would be another guy that they had mentioned. Even had heard some rumors that Cole Turner was playing some on the defensive side of the ball. And I don't know, that equally was exciting to think about, but also a little bit worrisome on the secondary. I do think Clemson's secondary is a little bit banged up, so I'm curious to see how they do there. And then, some of those walk-ons, or this would be, I guess, the last year of walk-ons. So just kind of those guys that may not get a ton of action, but just to see what they can do. And I'm assuming their last year as a true walk-on, because you're going to increase your scholarship numbers and then have a set limit of players that you can have. And that 105 or something like that, they're not going to be able to go over that. So this will be kind of the last spring game where these up and coming guys or these reserve guys get an opportunity. So kind of an end of an era for many things. You got end of an era for the walk-ons, end of the era for 85 scholarships. Probably by the summer it'll change. And then you've got, as we mentioned, you're not going to have your traditional football anymore in the spring game, which I'm more okay with that. And then, as I led with the show today, the alcohol part, which is, I think, a lot of old timers, including myself, are a little bit worried about. Maybe I wouldn't be so worried as a single guy, but now that I'm a dad, I just want my family to have a good experience. I want my daughter to have a good experience. I don't want to have to deal with obnoxious fans who are intoxicated. I don't want to have to deal with drinks being spilt, excessively, or people being passed out. And unfortunately, I've already had to deal with that in the limited amount of time, even without being alcohol being sold. So I'm a little bit worried there for sure. And I'm also worried about safety to and from the stadium for everyone involved, not just our patrons and our fans and the opposing fans, but also the law enforcement, and the crossing guards and the security. There's a lot of risk when you do these kind of things, but it's inevitable. Really is. It's inevitable. This is the way of college football. This is the way of professional football. And, for the most part, I guess my fears maybe go away over time because, they handle it in professional events. But there is definitely a lot more underage people because you're right there on campus. So whatever you do, if however you enjoy yourself, please do so responsibly. And I appreciate you being a part of the show. Again, thank you so much for making Locked On Clemson your first listen today and every day. For your second listen, check out Locked On College Basketball with Isaac Shade and Andy Patton. March is here, so be the most informed college basketball fan throughout the madness. Find Locked On College Basketball on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. All right, and Tiger fans, this is the end of the show. It's the start of April for my show. This will be the start of the third month, so thank you so much for your support. I think I looked over on YouTube. We had over 150 new subscribers, so if you're new to the show, thank you so much for the support. Go check out the podcast as well. Subscribe to that, and I really appreciate it. And as always, Tiger fans, we'll see you at the top of the hill.